Okay, thank you, sir. Let's sing out our one kid and sing to each other. Oh, we got, oh, great.
Now we'll take a few moments to remember our joys and concerns with silent or spoken candle lighting regarding the significant milestones in our lives. I invite those who wish to light a candle, silent or spoken, to please form a line to our right. And for those with spoken candles, give your name and please try to be brief.
comes to me serving a small congregation is to be present to the deep love you share during that part of your service. It makes a love-centered theology easier to articulate in clearest ways. And I want to share before our time of giving and receiving of gifts to this loving community, I want to let you know about an incredibly generous gift this congregation recently received. Last month when I was here, I invited us to move into a meditation of remembrance for Betsy Halloran, who was not the most outspoken amongst us or boisterous or rowdy by any estimation, but was a profound, loving individual. And after her death, she bequested to this congregation a sum in the amount of $76,000 and change from a retirement fund because she was loved and because she loved you. It creates different and growing opportunities for shared love for this community in the short term and no doubt for years to come. And I wanted to lift that up at the time we passed the basket to collect the offering from all, to invite you to just take a moment as the basket comes by you and as you give, as you are able, with love. Know that that particular money that we give in that way is truly sacred. So the offering will now be given and received. Thank you for generosity and your shared love. I'm going to invite you to remain seated and join us in singing From You I Receive, To You I Give.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
And now John will give us additional gift of song. John.
There must be lights burning brighter somewhere. Got to be birds flying higher in a sky more blue. If I can dream of a better land where all my brothers walk hand in hand, tell me why, oh why won't my dreams come true? Oh, why? There must be peace and understanding sometime. Strong winds of promise that will blow away the doubt and fear. If I can dream of a warmer sun where Hope keeps shining on everyone. Tell me why. Oh, why? Oh, why won't that sun appear? We're lost in a cloud with too much rain. We're trapped in a world that's troubled with pain. But as long as we still have the strength to dream, we can redeem our souls and fly. Deep in my heart, there's a trembling question. Still, I'm sure that the answer's gonna come somehow. Out there in the dark, there's a beckoning candle. Oh yeah, and while I can think, while I can talk, while I can stand, while I can walk, while I can dream, please let my dream come true right now. Let it come true right now. Right now. Oh yeah. Thank you.
I invite you now to join me in a time of contemplation and meditation. As we quiet ourselves and center ourselves and sit in a way that's comfortable for you and pay attention to our breath. And remember, there are times when silence or soft sounds such as the rustling of the leaves or the sounds of the wind or the chirping of birds or soft music can help us better touch that part of ourself within, a place where love and compassion abide. I invite you now into a time of softness and let Sean's words wash over you as you dream. Take one full cleansing breath as we return to some words and some other images I decided I wanted to do a preface to the sermon on something that I labeled for the order of service, a call to worship. Jake, I think we're going to be ready for that flowery-looking slide now. That Article 2 thing. You got that one ready to come up there, my friend? I can describe it a little bit. He's working on it back there. What we're going to see here is a minute in image and words and pictures that I've shared with you before that's going to soon become, part of Article 2 of the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Bylaws. Sometimes we cringe, but even faith communities need some standards and some operational procedures. You finding it there, my friend? I think Larry's still got the link in his order of service. Thank you, sound guy. We need these people who know about sound stuff, right, in order to be heard. We'll get to it in a minute. Let me see. I've got a paper copy here. No, I was going to say the link to the image. No, it's not in my version, but it is in yours, Larry. Would you go show Jake this link? That's right. Let me see if I can find it in your script. You still had it here? No, I don't have it. Well, if we find it, that's fine. If not, I'll describe to you. I once went to a UU conference. It was a regional meeting with Robert Fulghum. And Robert Fulghum is probably the most famous Unitarian Universalist minister since Emerson, you know. But he didn't become famous as a minister. He became famous for an essay and a collection of essays titled Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. I was in early education at the time, and it kind of explained my whole professional field very well. Well, he once at a presentation said, now I don't have to do it, but I'll finish this story. He invited us to look at an imaginary PowerPoint, and then told us what we were looking at, even though we were looking at a blank screen. I thought I was going to have to do that, but thanks to wizardry technology, we've got a real PowerPoint. And what this is part of Article 2, bylaws. I like being part of a faith that does bylaws that are a picture, that are a visual image. And what I want to call your attention to in particular is the center of that image. The center of that image is a chalice and the word love. That's the center of who we are as Unitarian Universalists. As Unitarian Universalists, we are bound together in love. We know that we are loving and caring beings, yet sometimes we do forget. We come together in church to remember. Come, let us worship and remember together. And I've asked Larry to share a reading about love from a different perspective than Unitarian Universalism. The Vietnamese Buddhist monk and teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, he wrote in his book Teaching on Love about two types of love. Maitre, sometimes translated in English as metta, which is the intention and capacity to offer joy and happiness, and karuna, or compassion. I've asked Larry to share some of Thay's, as he was known by his followers' teachings about Maitreya. Such a love has much in common with the unconditional love spoken of as central to our Universalist heritage and our contemporary theology. Larry.
Let me know if you have trouble hearing me. We all need love. Love brings us joy and well-being. It is as natural as the air. We are all loved by the air. We need fresh air to be happy and well. We are loved by trees. We need trees to be healthy. In order to be loved, we have to love, which means we have to understand. For our love to continue, we have to take the appropriate action or non-action to protect the air, the trees, and our beloved. Maitri can be translated as love or as loving kindness. Some Buddhists prefer loving kindness as they find the word love too dangerous. But I prefer the word love. Words sometimes get sick and we have to heal them. We have been using the word love to mean appetite or desire, as in, I love hamburgers. We have to use language more carefully. Love is a beautiful word. We have to restore its meaning. The word Maitri has roots in the word Maitra, which means friend. In Buddhism, the primary meaning of love is friendship. We all have the seeds of love in us. We can develop this wonderful source of energy, nurturing the unconditional love that does not expect anything in return.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Tay. Love that does not expect anything in return. Many Unitarian Universalist congregations include in their Sunday worship every Sunday a statement of covenant or affirmation. Many of them begin with these two versions of the same line. Love is the doctrine of this church. For some congregations have chosen to use the phrase, love is the spirit of this church. The congregation I served on Whidbey Island recited every day together their version of what they called their affirmation statement. Every morning they recited, love is the spirit of this fellowship and service is its practice. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and love, and to help one another. You know, we're all here as part of the church with the long name, Unitarian Universalists. You know, and it is a long name, and because it's kind of long, sometimes we refer to ourselves as UU. And people who are new to us go, what is UU? I want to give you a little summary of an answer you might try to give. We are UU, the church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the caring hands. Let's try that one together. We are UU, the church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the caring hands. See what we teach our kids that the adults sometimes miss out on? Now, sometimes people shorten the name in a different way, because UU is kind of confusing to people who don't know about us, and they'll say, well, I'm a Unitarian. Well, shortening is good, but you know, there are some of us have a problem with that, and I have to admit I have a problem with that because I'm a Universalist. Unitarian is sometimes an adjective I use to describe what kind of Unitarian I am. And I want to take a little time today to break down what I mean by that. And in order to do that, I'm going to look at a little bit of history and some theology. Now, there are a few folks, when I say we're going to talk about history or theology, they go, okay, I'll try to stay awake. And others can I make a sneak out to the door? No, there's too small a crowd this morning. If you sneak out, we'll catch you, right? You know, and I just have to tell you, if you're looking for more contemporary topics, that's not going to happen this Sunday, though I will link back to the here and now, because history and theology, you know, are opportunities because they shape who we are and inspire and inform what and how we want to be in the future, both individually and as a community. And besides, I'm an individual who once considered being a history major, and I got a graduate degree from a theological school, right? So I think history and theology are pretty important. History offers lessons about the past that we might not want to repeat, as well as a record of past successes we might want to try to replicate. Theology, which means literally the study of God, but in reality it means the study of what we find holy or ultimate, of what is most deeply meaningful within our own being that impacts our way of living in the world. Now, amongst the classes I took at Meadville Lombard Theological School, my UU seminary, were ones called process theology, liberal theology, and humanist theology. Theology is not necessarily always theist. There are, or can I assure you, good news today, there will be no test. But I am going to look back at some history and share a few dates. As many of you know, the Unitarian Universalist Association came into being in 1961 when two somewhat similar faith organizations, each with its own history and theology, became one. The American Unitarian Association, the AUA, which was originally established in 1825, and the Universalist Church of America, the UCA, which was founded in 1797, merged, and the UUA was born. I'd like to point out that they also merged their symbols, and I'd like you to take a look at the front cover of the Order of Service, which I asked Genevieve, our talented administrator, to find me a version of the chalice symbol that emphasize the circles, because the circles that surround the chalice in UUA symbology came from our Universalist heritage. They were intended to be inclusive circles, but also circles in the symbolism that we preachers sometimes talk about at weddings, that like a ring have no beginning and have no end. So universal love symbolically has no beginning and no end. One reason I think, by the way, that it's important to pick up a history, because there are some people who think we're just some 1970s New Age cult that has continued as we age. We have a history, and it has served us well. Now, the theologies of those two separate organizations actually go back to the earliest days of that offshoot from Judaism that came to be called Christianity. But do know, because history is a little hard for some of you, this is not the Sunday where I'm going to do an analysis of the impact of Universalist theology in second century Christian church. Maybe we'll do that another Sunday, or maybe we'll postpone it indefinitely. So we're going to move more into these times, okay? And moving into the 20th century, though, we find that by mid-century, the Unitarians and the Universalists, though separate, had begun to have many shared beliefs. Our two separate youth programs merged in the 1950s, become a thing called liberal religious youth. Do I have any former LRYers in the house? That's where I found UU when I was a teenager, as an LRY. Okay. Though both traditions were initially progressive forms of Christianity, they both became fundamentally non-creedal, offering room for varied beliefs amongst the members. Both saw themselves as progressive, meaning truth is not fixed. One way that has been stated is revelation is ongoing and continuing. Both were engaged in progressive political efforts, and there were also some differences. There's an old joke that reports that if there is such a thing as hell, neither yous nor yous will ever go there. Unitarians believe we won't go to hell because we're too good to go to such a place. And Universalists believe God is too good to send anyone there. And there is some truth to those different versions. Back in 1819, the noted Unitarian minister and theologian William Ellery Channing delivered a sermon titled Unitarian Christianity, which pushed back against notions of the Holy Trinity. It was a significant statement that became part of what led to the Unitarian break from the Congregational Church. He later wrote a sermon titled Likeness to God, which called on individuals through intentional effort or personal refinement to become bit by bit what some might call more godlike, a likeness to God through refinement and improvement. In an 1830 address to the Massachusetts Legislative Assembly, Channing said, "I call that mind free which resists the bondage of habit, which does not mechanically copy the path nor live on old virtues, but which listens for new and higher monitions of conscience and rejoices to pour itself forth in fresh and higher exertions." Continuing Revelation. Now, though the flowery language of the time sees dated, his call for change and growth and spiritual evolution, both individually and as a movement, ring true for us still today. Now, I also want to talk, and that's my title for today, about Universalist history and lift up as a contemporary of Channing's from the other side of our faith family, an individual named Hosea Ballou, who came to be called Father Ballou, and many consider him perhaps the most important parent of American Universalism. Ballou had been raised Baptist, but came to a place where he could no longer accept that faith's assertions about hell and damnation. He became a Universalist, and he took the message of a loving God and salvation for everyone on the road as a circuit-riding preacher. I'd like to share a story, which, by the way, I realized I'm not sure if I've shared it here before in the nearly 5 years I've been gathering with you folks, but I'm going to share it again, even if I did, because it's a good story and worth repeating. Ballou had been a circuit rider, and he was riding from town to town, sharing the good news of salvation and love for all. And he was invited by a farmer to come to his home for dinner and humble lodging. And after dinner, they stayed up late and they talked about theology for hours. I have to remind you, this was back before there were any streaming services or TV of any kind. And in those days, people actually sat around after dinner and talked about theology and such. Well, any rate, they talked for quite a while, and finally it was bedtime. The farmer guided Ballou out to the barn where a pile of hay and some blankets would be his humble bed. And he said to Ballou, he said, "Preacher, I want to apologize in advance for my son. He will likely arrive sometime late into the night, and he comes home drunk and he gets loud. Preacher, he's fallen from the way and he goes into town drinking and carousing, and I don't know what all he's doing, and I just don't know what to do. But I just wanted to let you know that that's likely going to happen." Ballou said, "My friend, I have an idea. I think I can help you out. I noticed when we were coming out here to the farm that there's a big hill alongside the road. Here's what we'll do. We'll go out by that hill. I'll go on behind the hill and I'll make a big fire. You stay out there on the roadway, and when your son comes, you stop him. And I'll jump out, and together we'll drag him off his horse, we'll drag him around the hill, and we'll throw him on that fire. That will teach him the error of his ways." The farmer is like, "But preacher, I love my son. I could never throw my son in a fire." Ballou paused for a moment. He said, "My friend, the same is true for the Holy Father. The Holy Father could never cast any of his beloved children into flaming fire." When people want to know what's universalism, I think that story offers a pretty good example. Ballou also wrote about universal love, most notably in a treatise titled A Treatise on Atonement, which, by the way, in good style, he wrote and rewrote several times during his lifetime, wanting to refine it even further. Now, Channing and Ballou were contemporaries. They both served late in their career large Boston churches, but it's likely they never met each other because they moved in very different circles. While Channing spent his time with the wealthy Boston merchant class and their Harvard graduate children, Ballou's congregants were more working class and often had just recently moved into the city from the countryside. But for a time, the Universalists grew more in numbers than did the Unitarians. At one point, the Universalist Church of America was the 5th largest denomination in this country. But when other Christian mainstream denominations started de-emphasizing hellfire and damnation and became more Universalist in their theologies, membership in the Universalist Church fell off. By the time of the 1961 consolidation, the class differences were more historical and perpetual and perceptual, especially in urban settings. The merger was a practical move to strengthen two small denominations that had limited resources, and it has served us well. We are better together. In recent years, we are collectively becoming more universalist in our theologies. This image of the heart in the center will no doubt be approved by the General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association this summer. It was provisionally approved last summer, and 86% of the delegates to our annual general meeting said, yes, this is the direction we're going, and this will become part of Article 2 of the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Now, that continued openness has led us towards being a love-centered Universalist theology, and we attempt to actualize that in direct actions to be more radically inclusive. That inclusivity has included a more intentional welcome to people of color, gender and identity nonconforming folks, and many who have long been marginalized, decentered. Now, centering such voices has been a challenge, and I've shared here my own initial discomfort with decentering myself as a cisgendered heterosexual white man to allow space for others to move into the center. This shift in theology has not been easy. Some have seen our increased focus on our loving hearts as being kind of anti-intellectual, as though a focus on our loving heart might somehow infringe on our open-mindedness. As I've shared before, some of my clergy colleagues have left the Unitarian Universalist Ministerial Association, and some, including a few congregations, have launched something called the North American Unitarian Association. On its website, the NIUA states, NIUA is a growing association of Unitarians, Universalists, and other religious liberals. We are working together to support one another in our individual and congregational efforts to make our world happier and more just through the practice and promotion of our shared values. And then they summarize these values, which they note emerged during the Renaissance, flourished during the Enlightenment as freedom, reason, and tolerance. And they consider them fundamental for any society to demonstrate respect for the worth and dignity of every person. Love is not included in their statement of values. One of the key proponents of the association has said in an essay, "It was time for a divorce." As I noted earlier, the new, soon-to-be promulgated values of our association put love right smack in the middle. The UU theologian Tandanka, whose name was bestowed upon her by the Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu, has coined a phrase, love beyond belief, in relation to religion. Commenting on Tandanka's theology, the Reverend Bruce Bodie, a beloved colleague and a dear friend who was my intern supervisor, it's going on 14, 15 years ago now, wrote, she believes that liberal religion has gone off the track in that it relates primarily to the head and intellect rather than to heart and the emotions. But real religion, she maintains, rests upon a feeling foundation. It works on a raw emotional material of the heart. It is of, from, and for the heart. Of, from, and for the heart. Religion addresses or might address the traumatized heart, the unstrung heart, the bewildered heart, the fearful heart, the lonely heart and the longing heart, the anxious heart, the despairing heart, the sorrowful heart, the shattered heart. It also takes account of, or should take account of, the awakened heart, the aroused heart, the astonished heart, the heart cracked open by wonder and awe, the heart that is filled with poetry, praise, and song. There are some moments, movements, motions, and emotions of the heart. It is here where religion is born and where it authentically lives. The heart is where religion is born and authentically lives. Bodhi continues, religion has to do with the expansion of the heart, of seeing and feeling a divine presence in all things, of developing a posture of loving kindness, compassion, and care towards all creatures and forms of being, beginning with ourselves. Real religion is not, first of all, what you believe in your head or think with your mind. It is deeper than doctrine. It is how you act, how you care, how you connect, how you treat others and yourself with love and kindness, how your heart is transformed. Secondly, love beyond belief has to do with the depth of your actual loving, the practice and discipline of caring and loving with such depth and power that it sometimes can only be called unbelievable. Loving beyond all belief and expectation. The practice and the discipline of loving. Such a love is at least similar, or if not fully the same, as the Maitreya or Metta we heard about in our reading on Buddhist teachings. It's also akin to that Buddhist love called karuna, which calls for compassion. It is such love that offers an engaged expression of love with beyond belief. A love which we give, a love which we receive, and a love which we practice day after day. As I close my time with you this morning, I want to invite you into a shared metta prayer. I'll say a phrase, and then I'll ask you to read it back to me. But first, sit in a way that your breath will flow. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May you be peaceful. May all be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be whole. May all be well. And may we together practice how we might make that so. I want to remind folks that there's going to be a time for a shared community conversation after the service, and part of my intention of that conversation is to begin to look at how this congregation might strive to embody that sense of wholeness for all, for those gathered here and those beyond the walls. But if there are comments people want to share now, Larry's got a microphone. If you just can't hold it in any longer, we can talk about it now, but there'll be also time to talk more in a community conversation, which I really want to talk about where we're going from here. So, Larry, you want to just see if we've got some folks that really want to put it out there now, or if not, we'll all gather in a circle. Alice got one.
Well, I kind of struggle with the concept of universal salvation for some of the most evil people in history. But I am comfortable in feeling that the hereafter is something we all share, the same hereafter. We just don't know what it is.
What I love in one of their last statements before merger was the Winchester Proclamation. I think they called it from the Universalist Church. They talked about things known and those things yet to be known. I mean, I just love that sense of we don't know. Anybody else now? Yeah, JC.
I found I just solved one of the problems that I have about coming for love and not being and not caring about punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized just now that if the love is great enough and in the face of that it takes courage and bravery, that's enough, because the punished go I don't know what the word is. I'll get to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that not having the non-love punished sometimes stops people from being able to go to love.
Right. Well, and there are theologies that are fear-centered. I was raised in a fundamentalist Christian church where the theology of that church was fear and judgment. And that's the core reason why I'm a universalist, because this works for me, that didn't, And many of us are here because we found something that worked for us because other things didn't, And to answer, the first part of Al's concern, I'm a developmentalist, and I think that those who have perpetuated evil have been the recipients of evil. And the only way to defuse and deconstruct that is a multi-generational process. So, at any rate.
While you're saying this, in my head there's this song, da-da-da-da, loving kindness, may I be well.
Yeah, the meta prayer has been set to music.
Where is that? Is that in our hymnals? Do we have it someplace?
I can't remember. I'd have to look. I know I know a good percentage of the songs in the two hymnals. It may be in the Teal hymnal. It's not. It's one that UUs have taken on the road, and I'm sure we could find a YouTube for it if we did some looking. I know we've sung it in the Eugene Church, but right. No, I just not sure if it's in either the gray or the teal hymnal, but it's been set to music in a very sweet melody. And there are various translations of the meta prayer that are a little bit different than this one, because they're ancient prayers that were originally written in Sanskrit. Well, they were translated into Sanskrit from Pali, and nobody speaks either of those languages anymore. So we don't, it's any rate. And Edith's got something in the back there.
I wanted to say something about, can you hear me? Am I doing this right? Yeah. What Al had said, I struggle with that too. I struggle, what's going to happen to people like Hitler, who killed, 6 million people, and others. There's tons of them. I sympathize. I have a very good long-time Jewish friend. We've been friends for probably 60 years, and I told her that I'm still having silent discussions with my ex-husband, and I don't like it. I don't want to think about it. And she said, the key is forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And she said, I am Jewish. If I can forgive Hitler, you can forgive your ex-husband.
And the preacher says amen, sister, to that one. Larry, did Sharon find it in the teal hymnal?
You're so observant.
I know. I was watching what's happening back there.
Number 31 in the teal hymnal.
Okay,
Filled with loving kindness.
I'll try to weave it in next time I'm here. If nothing else, it'll be our sung meditation. So yeah, we'll bring the melody into this room as well. And speaking,
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am concerned that what I perceive as the population of the world moving toward unity is not being reflected through our churches.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little more what you mean about that.
Well, you're talking about the divorce.
Right.
And also in the church that I grew up, which was Methodist, in the last 3 years, there's been a huge divorce over clergy and gender identification.
Mm-hmm.
And I have relatives who are on both sides of the issue.
Right.
And it's just incomprehensible to me.
Well, the answer to that, I think, will come in part from our closing words of benediction from Jose Ballou. But before we get to that, we're going to do some melody together. So I invite you to rise in body and spirit for our closing hymn, Just As Long As I Have Breath. It's number 6 if you want to look at it in the hymnal, and lyrics will be projected.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they asked what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes. I said yes to love. Tell them I said yes to love.
Please remain standing for our closing words of benediction. The words are from Hosea Ballou.
If we agree to love, there is no disagreement that can do us any injury.
But if we do not, no other agreement can do us any good.
Let us endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bonds of peace.
Shalom, salam, amen, and blessed be. And as we extinguish the chalice, I'm going to invite you to take a few moments, as is the tradition of this congregation, to gather together and link hands. Or if you're uncomfortable with that, touch a shoulder as we sing the closing song, Go Lift It Up.